Thank you. So I am not here to talk about the law. You had enough of that this morning. And I'm not even here to tell you that it's really not as bad as it seems. Because as I was observing faces and body language, which is a big part of what I do, I didn't see a whole lot of smiles about what's happening. But I do want to reemphasize what was said, and that is the environment. Actually, I don't want to reinforce what was said. I want to tell you how it is. And you all know this. The environment has changed. It is not changing. It has changed. We are behind the 8 ball. Very quickly, I was the VP of HR, Fortune 500. Yes, I built a very nice big organization, but not without its trials, tribulations, and errors. Lawsuits, demand letters, the whole bit, in a different era, but it's that hasn't changed. It's just, a new generation. Does that make sense? It's just a new generation. And I have to tell you, sitting there, my brain went back to 1999, 2000, and who's exhausted? And it's not good or bad to Douglas or to Carolyn. This is exhausting. How many of you believe you can do it by yourselves? Thank you. So for me to crack open your heads for the few minutes I have, we're going to go through a little exercise because you need to see the world a little differently to take all this on from today going forward. Okay? So each of you should have a piece of paper with the 9 dots. Anyone who does not have that piece of paper. Okay, do we have an extra one somewhere? Thank you for being honest. Here is the game. I want you, and if you've done this before, do not do it. If you've done it before, do not do it, to give those people who haven't done it a chance. You must connect all 9 dots with 4 straight lines, or pretty straight lines, without picking up your pen. Connect all 9 dots, 4 straight lines, without picking up your pen. Now let me encourage you. I have 3 sons, 13, 11, and 8. My 8-year-old did it in about a minute. It's not because he's smarter than you, it's because he sees the world differently. I got to get you to see the world differently to take on what you got to take on. Go to it. If you've done it before, please do not. You guys know how to do it? All right. We have some veterans out there. But trust me, the veterans, I have one up my sleeve. So here you go. Connect all 9 dots, 4 straight lines without picking up your pen. 1, 2, 3, 4. What were the rules? What were the rules? Can't pick up your pen. 4 straight lines. Connect all the dots. Folks, if I draw an outline here like this, what do you see? A box. So what do you have to do to solve the problem? Go outside the box. All those laws and all these changes, how many of you are still sort of thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get this all done? Any takers? Honestly, any takers who are sitting here going, holy crap, how am I going to get all this administrative stuff done? Any takers? No? None? Because you got to think outside the box. You got to be innovative. You got to do something different. So for all you people who did it in 4, let's see if you can do it in 3. And if you've done it in 3, please do not participate. Connect all 9 dots 3 straight lines without picking up your pen. What's the clue? What's the clue? What was that? Think outside the box. Okay, let me help you. Here's the box. Think outside the box. Okay, you ready? Are you sitting down? Here we go. And excuse my straight lines if they're not so straight. Three lines without picking up the pen. How many of you figured that one out? Any takers? Yes, I did. I said same thing now, 3 lines. Folks, start thinking differently. How many of you would like to hire more people on your team? Raise your hands. Take on some of this stuff. Look around the room. You're in good company. Okay, so let's hire some more people. And how about if we hire them without incurring any cost or investment to the company? Would you guys be heroes? I'm going to share with you what I did to grow a $750 million business. And I had about 70 HR professionals to do it. $750 million, 5,500 employees, and 141 locations. Because I was part of a publicly held company. And what is the most important thing to a publicly held company? Shareholder stock value. And every morning, you couldn't put your family on the screensaver. Guess what we saw every morning? Ticker tape. That price going through. Every moment you weren't working. You couldn't go to the internet and all that fun stuff. So what I'm here to share with you is that the key to thinking outside the box is not doing it yourself. I didn't see a hand go up that said you're going to do this by yourself. I know you have your teams and you have staff and all that fun stuff. But there's a whole slew of people out there that are going to help you. But in order to do that, you have to be an expert in communication. That's the premise of all the work I do. I believe it's the premise for anything getting done and getting done right. How many of you have children? Okay, how many of you know what a children is? Okay, everybody's hand is up now. Okay? How easy is it to tell our children and ask them to do things and execute on it? And any takers that say it's easy? How many of you have children 13, 11, and 8 or somewhere in that time frame? Excellent. How easy is it to get them to sleep? How easy is it to get them to wake up? Brush their teeth? It's not so easy. There's a correlation, a direct correlation between parent-child and what in the workplace? Supervisor, subordinate. It's the same relationship. And so if we don't think outside the box to work with our employees, we can't do it with our children. If we can't think outside the box with our children, we can't get outside the box with our employees. So here we go. In the world of communication, the way it works today, it's what I want to say to you, but there's a whole other side to that communication, which is what? What you want to hear. Now, I'm going to think that you were here today because you wanted to hear what Carolyn and Douglas had to say about all the changing laws. And given that it's December 9 and January 1 is right around the corner and some of those laws are going into effect, you guys are right on time. Awesome. Okay? You see that space? You see the space between the two circles? That's what exists today, greater than ever, for a myriad of reasons. The number one reason that people will tell you there's a gap is because we have generational differences. Let me tell you a little secret about generational differences. Do you think when the business owners of the 60s were looking at the graduates of the 70s, you think they looked at them and said, man, we got a communication problem in generations? Is it possible? And do you think the 70s business owners said it to the 80s and so on? So on some level, folks, it's no different. It's just the how. It's just the how. The issue is still the same. You now have more messages to get out to your companies. You now have more messages that you need your managers and supervisors and so on to get out to their people. Let me tell you how communication works from a practical standpoint. You have a message that gets delivered to a group of people called managers or whatever, okay? On average, what percent of the message that you deliver do you think the people you talk to are going to hear? On average. Who's the pessimist? Raise your hand. All right. Got to have one of those. Got to set the balance. Anybody else? Optimist. So between 10 and 40, I'm going to pick 25%. Okay? Is that fair? Who has kids? A lot lower. Let's go on. And do those people you typically give messages to have a group of direct reports? Yes? What percent of their message that they deliver to their direct reports do they hear? 25%. Do you think there's another layer for many of you? And what percent? Have you ever heard of the game of telephone? By the time your message gets to the people who are actually doing the work, you're down to about 1.25% of the message. In fact, it's less. Do you know why? Because each person has their own interpretation. Now, how daunting is it what you have to do going back to your organizations? You need help. You need more people to help spread your message. Spreading the gospel. That's what this is about. But before I go into that, what is going on that people can't hear the message? What's going on? Noise. Give me some detailed noise. Some examples. Pardon? Oh, yeah. Employment laws. That's a good one. Other priorities. Maybe to-do lists. How many of you sitting here diligently, patiently, are now starting to think about what you left back on your desk in your office? Any takers? Okay, how many of you thought about it when you first walked in here? Let's be honest. Okay, great. So we have our to-do lists, okay? What else? What other things might be going on? Kids. Excellent. What else? Let me tell you a big kicker. It's called the speaker. If you have a meeting with your people, don't think that for one moment, because you're the speaker, they're going to listen to you. I mean this lovingly. They don't care what you have to say. It's the truth, man. They just don't. But it's not because they don't like you, it's because why? They got so much noise and blocks and barriers to hear what you have to say. They got all this stuff going on. So in that 25%, you see how much is relevant? That's it, folks. So you're still saying what you want to say, and they're still waiting to hear what they want to hear. There's a radio station. It's been around since the ages, even before radio waves came into being. The radio station is WIIFM. Anybody know what that radio station represents? What's in it for me? And it's the loudest it's ever been. But I want to be clear. I said nothing's right or wrong, good or bad. What's in it for me is not a bad thing. Anybody want to support that? Anybody been on an airplane? What's the first thing they tell you if the oxygen mask falls? Why? Are we clear about that? So there's nothing wrong with this. It's just how is it applied? Fortunately, unfortunately, all these gadgets and devices are actually making communication worse than it's ever been. Someone has to tell me who wrote the rule that when someone puts all caps, they mean it and they're yelling at you. I mean, really, who comes up with this stuff? So the key to your success, to taking on more of this compliance and regulation, is you've got to enlist more people. To enlist more people, you've got to modify your behavior first in your communication. I'm also going to tell you that it starts top down. It always starts top down. How many of you get frustrated at times because it's so apparent something's wrong and you're not getting the support top down? I don't know where you work. I don't know who you'll tell me afterwards. Okay? It happens. It goes on. I have a lot of clients, and as an advisor, that's all we can do. That's all I felt I could ever do, was advise. And if they take the advice, great. If they don't, they don't. Okay? But you are the ones who have to modify first. But before we get there, this is what you're up against. Resistance. Can you, if you can't read that? There's a rabbit with big ears, I guess a hear. A raccoon and something else. Yeah, but he only hears what he wants to hear. How many of you have walked into a meeting, done your thing, left the meeting, someone from the meeting comes into your office to discuss the outcome, and you're sitting there wondering, were we in the same meeting? Rabbit ears. It looks like they're listening because they can, right? Resistance is an interesting thing. Anybody want to give me the bottom line definition to resistance? Bottom line, no judgment or opinion. Pardon? Good judgment and opinion. But you're on the track. You're right there. I just want bottom line, black and white. Opposition. Opposing force. Okay? Thank you. It's opposing force. That's all it is. Well, in the world of business, that resistance, when it's unexpected or when you go with a message like this to people who don't expect it, here's where they go. Human nature, they go to fear. And what do you think they have in terms of fear? Where do you think it leads them to? The fear of what? Job what? Or to lose a job means you have failed. Are we clear? Human nature, folks. Right? The boss calls you unannounced. What are your two reactions? Let's hear it. Pardon? Oh crap, which actually that word starts with an SH, okay? And what's the second thing? What did I do wrong? Human nature. Well, if in that communication, and you guys are handing out a lot of laws, and I'm telling you, they're going to have people sweating bullets because they did stuff they didn't know possibly was wrong, but they're going to go to resentment. Why do people in their jobs go to resentment? Because they're not succeeding. Who told them so? Who told them? Right, we heard it. Who told them? The boss, right? Remember the feedback, right? But But there's other ways to tell you you're not doing a good job, or to think that you're not doing a good job. What way is that? They don't have to necessarily tell you you're not doing a good job. What might they do? What might else they do? Possibly demand more. Okay, question. Anybody have an HR system recently implemented, let's say last 5 years? Any takers? Anybody ever been on an installation or something like that? Ever have someone come up to you, say, excuse me, and start doing your job? Ever have that happen? Ever have a boss ever call you up and say, thank you, I need you to do this, 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 and this, and you get a little frustrated? Do you know the number one reason people quit their jobs? They don't like their boss. And what don't they like about their boss? Lack of appreciation. Lack of appreciation of this. I know my job. Why are you telling me what to do? That's because of the relationship. And if they can't get past the resentment, ego kicks in. And what does ego want to say to those bosses we resent? What does the ego want to say? The human flower. All right? That's what the ego wants to say. And then eventually what happens is, if we don't have a relationship, sabotage. And how does the sabotage show up, folks? Lawsuits actually, at least you're getting to the end of it, but there's way worse sabotage in a lawsuit. Not doing the job well. You bet. What else? You guys know it all, man. Yeah. And then gossip starts, false claims, and then you have to do investigations, and then you have to do documentation, and then you're incomplete with documentation, and now the government will find you guilty that you don't have. Guys, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop unless, I'll show you in a minute. But are we clear how this happens? And it's all because of relationships. Okay? It's all because of relationships. Of course, your conversation doesn't bore me. How could it? I'm not listening. So what's going on, folks? So we got to figure out a way to get you to modify so the people around you modify. And believe it or not, there's only one thing you really need to do. First and foremost, your messages, your communication must be relevant. I'm not saying you need to change your systems and change your processes and change anything. The only thing you need to modify is your behavior to deliver a message that's relevant. Do you think some of this information that you received today is relevant to some of the managers in your environments, to some of the supervisors? Do you believe it's relevant? You bet it is. So what we have to figure out is, how do we get them to hear it? And what I like to say is, you got to speak in their listening. How many of you, when you walk into a meeting, either with one person or many people, before you go in, size up who you're talking to, how they're going to hear it, how they've responded in the past, what exactly do you want them to walk away with, and how exactly are you going to get them to do that? Any takers? Thank you all for being honest. Business plans. Have you all done business plans? Budget plans, labor plans, and any other vacation plans, right? But I am telling you that the silver bullet to getting people to start hearing your message is you need to modify first. Because So what do you think? What difference does it make? You never listen anyways. I was just making conversation. When you make conversation, you have to listen too. Really? Folks, I'm not saying that you're not good listeners. I'm not saying that you're not good communicators. It doesn't matter. What matters is you need to modify first. You need to hear those people. You need to hear what they have to say first. There's no weakness here. There's no giving in. But if you're going to be relevant to respond to them and get them to hear what you have to say, you have to do it first. It's the only way it's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you have to say. It matters what you want them to hear and how they're going to hear it. And if you don't speak their language, it's never going to happen. How many of you have been frustrated in your roles over the years trying to get change in the environment? Do I have some takers? How many with their kids? I've been doing my work for 15 years, specifically in this realm. And I have found that if I can listen first, sometimes I hear something I never heard before. How many of you go into conversations with people expecting the same type of conversation? Takers? You need to step out of that. You need to draw that line outside that box and come up with a new approach. You need to get relevant to these people. You need to find out what's relevant to them about what you think is so important. Well, one is, I don't believe in all the years I did work in corporate America and working with people today, I still have a belief, maybe 80-20 now, that people on the whole really want to do the right thing. And when I listen to all these laws, it astonishes me that if we just treated each other like human beings, we wouldn't need all these laws. But something went awry. I'm not sure where it was or what it was, but it's gone awry. And if we don't stand up for that relationship, then who's going to, folks? They look to you as the leaders in that relationship. There's something I learned from my parents. I didn't apply it until, 50 years later because I listened so well. I could be right in an argument or I could be in relationship. I could be right and tell somebody they were wrong, they did it wrong, shame on them, or I could just be in relationship, hear what they have to say, and figure out what the issue really is. How many have children? I mean, it's sort of natural as parents, right? Tell them what to do because we're their parents. It's kind of interesting. I have a 13, 11, 8-year-old. And, I had to start thinking about my 13-year-old is in 7th grade. I don't have much more time with him in the house under my rules. Right? And it sort of hits. That's my mortality. The mortality in business is if this thing keeps going with the momentum of the pendulum, businesses aren't going to be around. And more money is going to be spent on defending rather than producing. And somehow we have to get people to realize that the job is there to help them for their families. And if they grow, the company grows. More people make money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know the size of your companies, but if a few people could share with me, number of employees, just quickly go around the room. 250, 500? 4,400. Anybody, do we have below 500 takers? Yeah. Here's a message possibly get out there. I had a number of clients in 2008 who cut production by about 50%. I will tell you, as nasty as they thought my owners were, they saw owners cry because they had to lay off people, which means it impacted their families. Somehow, we've got to get people past all this so they can do their jobs. The people that you need to hire on your teams, are the people that are out there doing the work that makes the product, that does the operations. They are your teammates. You have to figure out how to get them aligned with you to help you with this. It is not easy stuff. And I'm going to have something handed out here. I'm going to tell you, you may think this is overwhelming and almost impossible. How many of you think with kids it's never ending? Yeah, okay, let's be clear, it is. Folks, I want you to understand that you're going to fail. Failure leads to success because we learn from our failures. And now, this day and age, now is the time more than ever to figure out and sort of go back and think about where you failed and now do something different outside the box. Mr. Lincoln was not successful. I mean, look at his record, folks. He lost every race leading up to the presidency. Two businesses failed. He unfortunately had a death of his first fiancée. One of his sons died. Now, bring it to modern times, a little bit more on the jovial side. Anybody hear of Michael Jordan? Right? Michael Jordan missed 2,000 free throws in his professional career, and yet went on to be what? Probably the greatest basketball player, at least in my time frame here. Okay? And we can go countless other people who haven't made it, right? Steven Spielberg didn't make it into the USC School of Film and all that fun stuff, right? There's countless stories about it. But I think Abraham takes the cake here. So when you believe that there's no more possibility, that's when you have to look in the mirror and say, can I go beyond what's possible? Because that's the only way we're going to change this planet, company by company. And if you're tired now, good. That means you're working hard. How many of you have a 2-week break coming up pretty soon? 1 week break? A weekend? All right. All right. Take that time and really think about what you're going to do differently. And folks, you can't do it all. It's impossible. Do what you can, come up with a plan, and enlist your new teammates. Figure out who you already know that's out there, that when you talk, they hear what you have to say. Because that's the only way it's going to get done. Hire people who are already on the team so you don't have to pay for it. Thank you very much.